The glass shattered before anyone understood what had happened. A sharp crack cut through the low hum of polite laughter and clinking cutlery, and then came the deeper, more violent sound. The splash. Dark red wine arced through the air and landed across Amara Nwoye's chest, soaking into her crisp white uniform like a stain that had been waiting for her all night. The restaurant fell silent. Not quiet silent. 300 eyes turned at once. Amara didn't move. The cold liquid clung to her skin, dripping slowly down her arms, sliding off her fingers and onto the polished marble floor. For a second, just one, her breath caught in her throat. Her heart slammed so loudly she was sure everyone could hear it. But she didn't flinch. Across from her sat Victor Kane, leaning back in his chair like he had just completed something impressive. His lips curled into a slow, satisfied smile as he glanced around, drinking in the attention. "You people," he said loudly, gesturing lazily with his empty glass, "really need to learn what service means." A few nervous chuckles scattered across the room, weak and uncertain. Amara still didn't move. Inside her something trembled, not fear, not exactly. Something deeper, something tired. Her fingers tightened slightly around the tray she held. Behind her she could feel the shift, the manager stepping closer, the staff freezing, the unspoken rule hanging in the air. Don't make it worse. Victor leaned forward now, lowering his voice just enough to sound more dangerous. "I asked for a Bordeaux," he said. "Do you know what you brought me?" Amara met his eyes. "Yes," she said quietly, "I do." "Then explain to me," he continued, his tone sharpening, "why I should tolerate incompetence." The word landed harder than the wine. A slow drip echoed from the edge of the table. Somewhere a fork dropped. Amara inhaled slowly, steadying herself. She could feel it, the weight of the moment pressing down on her, waiting for her to shrink, to apologize, to disappear. Like always. But something inside her refused. "Not tonight. Not again." Her voice, when it came, was calm. "You didn't throw that because of the wine," she said. The room shifted. Victor blinked just once. Amara took a small step forward, not aggressive, not afraid, just present. "You threw it," she continued, "because you needed everyone here to look at you." A ripple of tension moved through the crowd. Victor's smile faltered. "You think this is about service?" she asked softly. "It's not, it's about power, and you needed to remind yourself you have it." A few people exchanged glances. The manager froze behind her. Victor's jaw tightened. "You're out of line," he snapped. "No," Amara said, shaking her head slightly. "I'm just not pretending anymore." The silence deepened. "And the truth is," she went on, her voice steady, "people like you don't come here for food. You come here to feel important. And when something small doesn't go your way, you break something. Or someone." No one moved. No one spoke. Victor's face darkened. "You should be very careful," he said quietly. Amara held his gaze. "I have been careful," she replied, "every day." A long pause. Then she placed the tray gently on the table beside him and stepped back. The moment stretched. Then the spell broke. "Amara," the manager's voice cut through sharply, "what do you think you're doing?" The world rushed back in, whispers, shifting chairs, the low hum of discomfort. Amara turned slowly. "I'm done apologizing," she said. The manager's face flushed with anger. "You don't speak to guests like that. Do you understand where you are?" "Yes," she said quietly, "I do." "Then act like it," he snapped. "Go clean yourself up, and pray Mr. Kane doesn't decide to escalate this." Amara glanced once more at Victor. He didn't look satisfied anymore. He looked exposed. She turned and walked away. Each step felt heavy but steady. Behind her, the murmurs followed. In the staff hallway, the noise faded into something distant and dull. The bright lights buzzed overhead. The smell of food and cleaning chemicals mixed into something she barely noticed anymore. She reached the sink, turned on the tap. Cold water rushed out. For a moment, she just stood there, staring at her reflection in the small, cracked mirror. Wine-stained, tired, still standing. Her hands gripped the edge of the sink. Her chest rose and fell. And then finally, the weight of it pressed down. Not just tonight. Everything. The double shifts. The aching feet. The silence. The swallowing of words she wanted to say, but couldn't afford to. Her eyes stung, but no tears fell. She wouldn't give them that. Not here. Not like this. Rough night. The voice came gently from behind her. Amara didn't need to turn to know who it was. Elias Varga stepped into view beside her, his presence quiet but unmistakable. He wasn't dressed like the others. No loud brands, no flashy confidence. Just a simple shirt, sleeves rolled slightly, eyes observant. He handed her a clean cloth. She hesitated, then took it. "Thank you," she said softly. He nodded toward the mirror. "You handled that differently." A faint, tired smile touched her lips. "Not differently enough," she replied. "I disagree," he said. She glanced at him. "For what it's worth," he added. That was the first honest thing anyone said in that room all night. Amara let out a small breath. "That honesty might cost me my job." Elias tilted his head slightly. "And if it does?" he asked. She looked back at her reflection. For a moment, she didn't answer. Then quietly, "I don't know who I am without it." Elias studied her. "I think you do," he said. She shook her head faintly. "This job pays for my mother's treatment. It keeps the lights on. It's not just a job." He didn't respond immediately. Instead, he leaned lightly against the counter, his gaze thoughtful. "What would you do," he asked after a moment, "if you didn't have to survive like this?" Amara let out a soft, almost humorless laugh. "You always ask questions like that," she said. "Because you never answer them," he replied. She hesitated. Then slowly, she reached into her bag and pulled out a worn notebook. The edges were frayed, the pages slightly bent. She held it for a second, then handed it to him. Elias opened it carefully. Inside were recipes, handwritten, detailed, alive. Flavors, ingredients, notes in the margins. "This," she said quietly, "is who I am without this place." He looked up at her. "And why is this your life already?" he asked. Amara smiled faintly. "Because dreams don't pay hospital bills." Elias closed the notebook gently. "Sometimes," he said, "they just need the right moment." She shook her head. "Moments don't change things," she said. "People like me don't get moments. We get chances to endure." Elias watched her closely. "Maybe," he said, "you've just been waiting for the wrong kind of moment." Before she could respond, the manager's voice echoed down the hallway. "Amara now." She closed her eyes briefly, then straightened. "Duty calls," she muttered. As she turned to leave, Elias spoke again. "Amara." She paused. "Tonight isn't over," he said. She gave a small nod, then walked back toward the noise. Neither of them knew yet. Everything had already begun to change. Amara stepped back onto the restaurant floor, and the noise hit her all at once. Not loud, but heavy. Conversations had resumed, but they were different now. Lower, sharper. Eyes followed her as she moved, not with indifference like before, but with something else: curiosity, discomfort, awareness. She felt it in every step. The manager stood near the bar, arms crossed, jaw tight. The moment he saw her, he gestured sharply. "Office now." Amara didn't argue. She walked past him, past the polished tables and quiet stairs, through the narrow hallway that led to the back office. The door shut behind them with a soft click that somehow felt louder than the earlier crash. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, "What exactly do you think you were doing out there?" he snapped. Amara stood still, her hands relaxed at her sides. "I was responding," she said calmly. "Responding?" He let out a harsh laugh. "You humiliated a high-profile guest in front of everyone." Her gaze didn't waver. "He humiliated me first." "That doesn't matter," the manager barked, slamming his hand against the desk. "Do you understand how this works? People like him, people like them. They keep this place running." "And people like me?" she asked quietly. He didn't hesitate. "You're replaceable." The word landed like a dull weight. But Amara didn't flinch this time. "Then replace me," she said. The manager blinked, thrown off for a second. "You think I will?" he challenged. "I think you already have," she replied. Silence stretched between them. Something in her tone, steady, certain, made him hesitate. Then his expression hardened again. "Fine," he said coldly. "Go home. We'll review your conduct and decide if you're worth keeping." Amara nodded once. "Understood." She turned and walked out before he could say anything else. No pleading. No apology. Just a quiet exit. The night air outside felt different. Cooler, cleaner. For the first time in hours, Amara could breathe without forcing it. She stepped onto the sidewalk, the glow of the restaurant behind her casting long shadows ahead, the distant sound of waves mixed with the faint hum of traffic. Her hands trembled slightly, but she tucked them into her pockets. She should have been panicking. Rent, bills, her mother. But instead, there was a strange stillness inside her, as if something heavy had finally dropped away. Walking away already. She turned. Elias stood a few steps behind her, hands in his pockets, expression calm as always. "I didn't walk away," Amara said. "I was sent away." "Same result," he replied. She let out a small breath, almost a laugh. "Do you always follow people after dramatic moments?" she asked. "Only the interesting ones," he said. She shook her head, looking down at the pavement. "Tonight wasn't interesting," she murmured. "It was reckless." Elias stepped closer, but not too close. "It was honest," he said. She looked up at him. "Honesty doesn't pay bills," she repeated. "No," he agreed, "but it changes things." Amara crossed her arms slightly, more out of habit than defense. "Changes things how?" she asked. "Tomorrow I might not have a job." Elias studied her for a moment. "Would that be the worst thing?" he asked. Her eyes flashed slightly. "Yes," she said firmly, "it would." He nodded, accepting that. "Then maybe the question isn't whether you lose your job," he said. "Maybe it's what you gain if you do." She frowned. "That sounds like something people say when they don't have consequences." Elias smiled faintly. "Fair." A brief silence passed between them. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of the ocean. Amara exhaled slowly. "I didn't plan to say any of that," she admitted. "It just came out." "That's usually when it matters most," he said. She glanced at him again, studying him more carefully this time. "You weren't surprised," she said. "By what?" "By what I said, by how I said it." Elias shrugged slightly. "You've been holding it in for a long time." Her brow furrowed. "You barely know me." "I know enough," he said quietly. Something in his tone made her pause. "Why do you keep coming back?" she asked suddenly. "To the restaurant." "To me?" The question hung in the air. Elias didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was simple. "Because you remind me of something real." Amara blinked. "That's vague." It's honest, he replied. She looked away again, unsure what to do with that. You should go home, he added gently, get some rest. She nodded slowly. Yeah, I should. But neither of them moved immediately. Then, Amara. She turned back. Tomorrow, he said, don't decide anything out of fear. She held his gaze for a moment. I don't have that luxury, she said. Maybe you do, he replied. Before she could respond, he gave a small nod and stepped back. Good night, Amara. Good night, she said softly. He walked away without looking back. And for some reason, that stayed with her more than anything else he had said. The apartment was quiet when she got home. Too quiet. Amara slipped off her shoes near the door, wincing slightly as the ache in her feet settled in. The small living space was dimly lit, a single lamp casting a warm glow over worn furniture. Her mother was asleep on the couch, a blanket loosely draped over her frail frame. Amara paused, watched her for a moment, then moved closer, gently adjusting the blanket, careful not to wake her. Her mother stirred slightly, eyes opening just a fraction. Amara, she whispered. I'm here, Amara said softly. You're late. I know. Her mother studied her face, her expression soft but perceptive. Long night. Amara hesitated, then nodded. Something like that. Her mother's gaze lingered on her, as if searching for something unspoken. You look different, she murmured. Amara blinked. Different how? Lighter, she said. Amara almost laughed at that. I don't feel lighter. Her mother smiled faintly. Sometimes feeling comes after change. Amara sat down beside her. For a moment, neither spoke. Then, I might lose my job, Amara said quietly. Her mother didn't react with panic. Just a small nod. Then we will figure it out. Amara frowned slightly. You're not worried. I'm always worried, her mother said gently, but I trust you more than I trust fear. The words settled deep. Amara looked down at her hands. I said things tonight, she admitted, things I wasn't supposed to say. Her mother's lips curved into a soft smile. Were they true? Amara nodded. Then they were supposed to be said. Amara let out a slow breath. You always make it sound simple. It is simple, her mother said. Not easy, but simple. A long pause. Then, what do you want, Amara? The question caught her off guard. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Her eyes drifted toward the small table in the corner, where her notebook sat. I want, she began slowly. Her voice faltered, then steadied. I want to build something that's mine. Her mother nodded. Then start. Amara looked back at her. Just like that. Yes, she said, just like that. Amara shook her head slightly. I don't have the money, or the connections, or... You have your mind, her mother interrupted gently. Your hands, your heart. A small smile. That's how your father started. The mention of him stilled the room for a moment. Amara swallowed. He didn't get far, she said quietly. No, her mother agreed, but he got far enough to make sure you would. Silence settled again. But this time it felt different. Not heavy. Full. Amara leaned back slightly, her gaze drifting again to the notebook. For the first time in a long time. It didn't feel like a distant dream. It felt like something waiting. Across the city, in a quiet office overlooking the water, Elias Varga stood by a large window, his phone pressed to his ear. Yes, he said calmly, I was there. A pause. I want a full report on Victor Kane's business holdings. Another pause. And the restaurant. His gaze shifted slightly, thoughtful. No, he added, not the restaurant itself, the management. He listened for a moment, then nodded. Good, start there. He ended the call and slipped the phone into his pocket. For a moment he just stood there, looking out at the dark water. Then, almost to himself, let's see who really runs things. A faint, knowing expression crossed his face. Because tonight hadn't just exposed one man. It had revealed an entire system. And Elias was about to change it. Back in her apartment, Amara picked up her notebook. She flipped through the pages slowly. Each recipe, each note, each dream written in ink. Her fingers paused on one page, then another. Then she reached for a pen, hesitated, and began to write. For the first time, not as an escape, but not as planned. Morning came faster than Amara expected. Her alarm buzzed, low and persistent, pulling her out of a sleep that didn't feel like rest. For a second she lay still, staring at the ceiling, letting reality catch up to her. Then it did. The wine, the silence, her words, the manager's face. Her chest tightened slightly. Today would decide everything. She sat up slowly, rubbing her eyes, then swung her legs over the edge of the bed. Her feet still ached from the night before, but she ignored it. Pain had never been a good enough excuse to stop. In the living room, her mother was already awake. Sitting upright. Waiting. You're up early, Amara said softly. Her mother smiled faintly. I didn't sleep much. Amara nodded, understanding more than she said. Neither of them mentioned the obvious. Instead, Amara moved toward the small kitchen area, pouring water into a kettle. You don't have to go in today, her mother said gently. Amara paused. I do, she replied. I need to know where I stand. Her mother studied her for a moment. And if they don't see your worth, she asked. Amara turned slightly, leaning against the counter. Then I'll have to, she said. The kettle began to whistle softly. The walk to the restaurant felt longer than usual. Every step carried a question. Would they fire her immediately? Would they pretend nothing happened? Would Victor be there again? Her grip tightened slightly on her bag. She wasn't afraid of him anymore. That was the strange part. Something had shifted last night. Fear had been replaced by something steadier. Something quieter. When she reached Azure Cove, the glass doors reflected her back at her. Clean uniform, tied hair, composed expression. No sign of what had happened. She pushed the door open. The usual morning calm greeted her. Staff preparing, soft chatter, the faint smell of coffee. But the moment she stepped in, it changed. Heads turned. Conversation slowed. Whispers began. Amara felt it immediately. Not dismissal. Not indifference. Recognition. Her heartbeat picked up, but she kept walking. The manager was already waiting. Of course he was. Standing near the center of the floor, arms folded, expression unreadable. Amara, he said sharply, office. Again. She didn't hesitate. The walk felt shorter this time. Inside, the door closed behind them. But this time, something was different. He didn't start shouting. He didn't slam anything. He just looked at her. Long, careful. Then, do you have any idea what you caused last night? Amara met his gaze. I told the truth, she said. He exhaled slowly, running a hand over his face. That's not what I asked. A brief silence. Then he stepped aside slightly, gesturing toward a chair. Sit. Amara hesitated, then sat. He remained standing. Victor Kane has already filed a complaint, he said. He wants you fired, immediately. Amara nodded once. I assumed as much. But that's not the problem, he added. Her brow furrowed slightly. Then what is? He leaned forward slightly, placing both hands on the desk. The problem is, he's not the only one who spoke up. Amara stilled. What do you mean? The manager held her gaze. Several guests contacted us this morning. A pause. They said what you did was justified. Amara blinked. That she hadn't expected. They described his behavior, he continued, not yours. A quiet shift settled in the room. And she asked carefully. And now, he said, straightening slightly, this situation is complicated. Amara almost let out a breath. Almost. So what happens now? She asked. Before he could answer, a knock came at the door. Sharp, controlled. The manager frowned. We're in a meeting. The door opened anyway. And Elias walked in. Like he belonged there. Because in that moment he clearly did. The manager stiffened immediately. Sir, he began. Elias raised a hand slightly, not rude, just enough to stop him. It's all right, he said calmly. I won't take long. His eyes moved to Amara. She stood slowly. Something about the way the room shifted around him was impossible to ignore. Authority. Not loud. Not forced. Just present. Elias turned back to the manager. I believe you were discussing Miss Nwoye's employment. The manager swallowed slightly. Yes, we were. Good, Elias said. Then let's make it simple. A brief pause. Amara stays. The words landed clean. Final. The manager blinked. Sir, with all due respect, this involves a high-profile client. It involves conduct, Elias interrupted, his tone still calm, and I reviewed it personally. The manager's confusion deepened. Personally? Elias stepped forward slightly. I own this building, he said. The air changed. Completely. The manager froze. Amara felt it too, the shift in gravity, the quiet realization settling in. Elias continued, his voice even. And I take a particular interest in how businesses within my property operate. The manager's posture straightened instantly. I understand, sir. Good, Elias said. Then you also understand that I will not tolerate staff being treated as disposable. A pause. Or abused. The manager nodded quickly. Of course. Elias glanced at Amara briefly, then back at him. Amara not only keeps her position, he added, she will be reassigned. The manager blinked again. Reassigned. To a higher level of responsibility, Elias clarified, effective immediately. Amara's eyes widened slightly. That part she hadn't expected. Sir, that's highly unusual, the manager began. Elias met his gaze. Is it? Silence. The manager swallowed. No, sir. Good, Elias said again. He turned slightly toward Amara now. For what it's worth, he said quietly, you earned that yourself. Her throat tightened slightly. She didn't know what to say. So she just nodded. Elias gave a small nod in return. Then turned and walked out. Just like that. No drama. No lingering. But everything had changed. The office felt smaller after he left. The manager exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. Well, he muttered, that's new. Amara stood still, her thoughts racing. You knew? She asked suddenly. The manager looked at her. Knew what? About him. He shook his head quickly. No, no one knew. A pause. He's been coming here for months, Amara said. Clearly, the manager replied, still processing, and clearly watching. Silence lingered. Then, "Congratulations," he said stiffly. "You've just become very important." Amara frowned slightly. "I don't want to be important," she said. "I just want to work." He let out a short breath. "Well, things don't always stay the way we want them to." Back on the restaurant floor, the atmosphere had shifted again. This time it wasn't whispers. It was something closer to respect. Staff who barely acknowledged her before now stepped aside. Some even nodded. Amara felt it, but didn't let it change her pace. She moved as she always did. Focused, steady, but inside, something was different. For the first time, she wasn't just enduring the space. She belonged in it. Later that afternoon, as the lunch rush faded, Amara stepped outside for a brief break. The ocean breeze hit her face gently. She closed her eyes for a second. Then, "You're handling this better than most people would." She opened her eyes. Elia stood beside her again, quiet as ever. "You have a habit of appearing," she said. "And you have a habit of doing unexpected things," he replied. She let out a small breath. "You didn't have to do that," she said. "Yes," he said simply, "I did." She turned to him. "Why?" A pause. Then, "Because you were right," he said. She searched his face. "That's not enough reason." "It is for me." Silence settled between them. Then he nodded toward her bag. "Did you bring it?" She blinked. "Bring what?" "The notebook." She hesitated, then slowly pulled it out. He took it, flipping through the pages again. Carefully. "This isn't just a hobby," he said. "This is a business waiting to happen." Amara shook her head. "It's a dream." "Those are usually the same thing," he replied. She looked out at the water. "I wouldn't even know where to start." Elias closed the notebook. "You already did," he said, handing it back. A pause. Then, "If you were given the chance," he asked, "would you take it?" Amara hesitated. Her grip tightened slightly on the notebook. Then, "Yes," she said. No hesitation this time. Elias nodded slowly. "Good." Because somewhere beneath the calm in his expression, plans were already in motion. And Amara's life was about to change in ways she couldn't yet imagine. Amara didn't notice the shift immediately. At first it was subtle. A manager who used to rush past her now paused to ask for her input. A chef who once ignored her suggestions suddenly listened, really listened, when she spoke. Even the servers, some of whom had quietly resented her before, now watched her with something closer to curiosity than competition. It was unfamiliar, unsettling. Respect, she realized, felt heavier than dismissal. That evening she was called into the kitchen, not to serve but to observe. "New arrangement," the manager said, not quite meeting her eyes. "You'll be coordinating between front and back, ensuring quality." Amara nodded slowly. She understood what that meant. She was being watched, tested, and maybe, for the first time, trusted. She stepped into the kitchen, the heat wrapping around her instantly. Pans clattered, flames rose, voices overlapped in controlled chaos. This had always been her favorite place, even when she wasn't allowed to belong there. "Stay out of the way," one of the line cooks muttered automatically, then paused when he realized who he was talking to. Amara didn't react. She simply moved to the side, observing, listening, learning, but more than that, seeing. Where things slowed down, where mistakes repeated, where small changes could make a difference. After a few minutes, she stepped closer to one of the stations. "That garnish is too heavy," she said quietly. It's overpowering the main dish. The cook frowned instinctively, then hesitated, tasted it, paused. "You're right," he admitted reluctantly. Amara didn't smile, didn't push. She just nodded and moved on. Hours later, when the dinner rush was at its peak, something unexpected happened. A dish was sent back. Not uncommon, but this time it came from a table that mattered very much. The manager rushed into the kitchen, tension written all over his face. "Table 12, he snapped. "They're not happy." The head chef frowned. "What's the issue?" "Flavor balance," the manager said. "They say it's off." The chef bristled immediately. "That's impossible." Amara, standing nearby, felt something tighten in her chest. She knew that dish. She had watched it being prepared. And she knew it wasn't impossible. She stepped forward. "Can I taste it?" she asked. The kitchen went still. The chef turned to her slowly. "This isn't your area," he said. "I know," she replied, "but it's my responsibility now too." A long pause. Then, with visible reluctance, he pushed the plate toward her. "Fine," he said, "taste." Amara picked up a spoon, tasted carefully, let the flavors settle. Then, "The citrus is too sharp," she said. "It needs something to round it out." The chef crossed his arms. "Like what?" She didn't hesitate. "A hint of sweetness, not much, just enough to balance it." He studied her, skeptical, then grabbed the ingredients, made a small adjustment, tasted again. And this time, his expression shifted. Subtle, but real. "Send it," he said quietly. The dish went back out. Minutes passed. Then, the server returned. They loved it. A quiet ripple moved through the kitchen. The chef glanced at Amara again. "Different this time." "Not bad," he muttered. Amara simply nodded. But inside, something lit. Not pride. Not yet. But proof. Later that night, as the last guests began to leave, Amara stepped outside again. The sky was darker tonight, the air cooler. She leaned lightly against the railing, exhaling slowly. "You're changing things in there." "Elias?" "Of course." She didn't turn immediately. "I'm just doing my job," she said. "That's not what it looks like," he replied. She glanced at him. "What does it look like?" "Like someone who's been waiting for the chance to lead," he said. Amara shook her head. "I'm not a leader." Elias stepped closer. "You corrected a chef tonight," he said, "in his own kitchen." She hesitated. "That wasn't about leadership," she said. "It was about the food." "It's always about the food," he replied. "But how you handle it, that's leadership." She looked away. "I'm still learning," she murmured. "Good," he said. "That means you're paying attention." A brief silence settled. Then, "Why are you doing this?" she asked. Elias tilted his head slightly. "Doing what?" "All of it," she said. "Helping me, watching me, pushing me." He didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was quieter. "Because I've seen what happens when people like you don't get the chance." Amara frowned slightly. "People like me." "People who build quietly," he said. "Who endure more than they should. Who have something real to offer but no one stops long enough to see it." She held his gaze. "And you decided to stop." "Yes." "Why?" Another pause. Then, "Because I recognize it," he said. She searched his face, but he didn't elaborate. Instead, he nodded toward her notebook again. "Have you thought more about it?" he asked. Amara looked down at it. "I started writing differently," she admitted. not just recipes, plans. Elias smiled faintly. That's a good sign. It's also terrifying, she said. It should be, he replied. That means it matters. She let out a small breath. What if it fails? She asked. Elias shrugged slightly. Then you learn. That's easy for you to say. Yes, he agreed, because I've failed before. Amara blinked. You. More than once, he said. She studied him again, curiosity deepening. You don't seem like someone who fails. That's because you're only seeing the part that worked, he replied. Silence lingered. Then, I don't want to depend on you, she said suddenly. Elias nodded. Good, he said. She frowned. That's not what I expected you to say. I'm not offering dependency, he said. I'm offering opportunity. She crossed her arms slightly. There's a difference. Yes, he said, and you should be careful about it. A pause. Then, if I help, he added, it will be on your terms, your vision, your decisions. Amara considered that. And what do you get? She asked. Elias smiled faintly. I get to see something real succeed. That's it. That's enough. She wasn't entirely convinced. But she didn't push. Not yet. Over the next few days, the pressure increased. Not from the manager. Not from the staff. From expectation. People watched her now. Waited to see what she would do next. Every decision mattered. Every mistake would be noticed. But instead of shrinking, Amara adapted. She asked more questions. Observed more closely. Trusted her instincts more. And slowly, the space began to shift around her. Not dramatically, but steadily. The kitchen ran smoother. The service felt sharper. Even the atmosphere, subtle but present, felt more grounded. And people noticed. Then came the call. Late afternoon. Amara was reviewing a menu adjustment when the manager approached her. You're needed in the office, he said. Again. But this time, his tone was different. Less authority. More caution. Amara wiped her hands and followed him. Inside, the office felt tense. Not chaotic. Controlled. Elias was already there. Seated. Waiting. Amara's chest tightened slightly. What's going on? She asked. The manager glanced at Elias, then back at her. We have a situation, he said. Amara frowned. What kind of situation? Elias spoke this time. Victor Kane, he said. The name alone shifted the air. What about him? Amara asked. Elias leaned back slightly. He's not finished. A pause. He's escalating. Amara's expression hardened slightly. How? The manager hesitated. Then, he's filed a formal complaint, he said, not just against you, against the restaurant. Amara blinked. For what? Professional misconduct, reputation damage, loss of business confidence, the manager listed. Amara let out a small, incredulous breath. He threw wine on me. Yes, the manager said, but he has influence and he's using it. Silence settled. Heavy. Then, what does that mean? Amara asked. Elias met her gaze. It means, he said calmly, this isn't just about one night anymore. A pause. It's about control. Amara's fingers tightened slightly. And what happens now? Elias didn't look away. Now, he said, we decide how far he's willing to go. A quiet tension filled the room. Because something bigger was unfolding. And this time, it wasn't just about dignity. It was about power. And who really held it? If you're still watching this story and you can feel the tension building, don't forget to like the video and drop a comment. What do you think Amara should do next? Because the next move changes everything. Amara didn't speak immediately. The weight of it settled slowly. Victor wasn't just angry. He was calculating, strategic, the kind of man who didn't lash out once but came back harder when his pride was bruised. She looked from the manager to Elias. So he's trying to force the restaurant to choose, she said quietly. Him or me? The manager nodded grimly. That's exactly what he's doing. Amara exhaled slowly. And if they choose him? The manager didn't answer. He didn't need to. Elias did. They won't, he said calmly. Amara turned to him. You sound very sure. I am. Because you own the building, she asked. Elias held her gaze. No, he said, because I've already started looking into him. Something in his tone made the room go still. The manager shifted slightly. What does that mean? Elias leaned forward just a fraction. It means Victor Kane isn't as untouchable as he thinks. A pause. Amara's brow furrowed. You're saying he's vulnerable. I'm saying, Elias replied, that people who rely on power rarely expect it to be questioned. Silence. Then Amara shook her head slightly. This is bigger than me, she said. I don't want to be the reason this place gets dragged into something like that. Elias didn't hesitate. You're not the reason, he said. He is. She looked down briefly, processing. But I'm the trigger, she said. Yes, Elias agreed, and sometimes triggers reveal what's already broken. The manager let out a quiet breath. So what do? He asked. Elias stood. We don't react, he said. We prepare. Amara looked up. For what? Elias met her eyes. For him to make his next move. That night felt different. Not tense in the same way as before, but charged. Like something unseen was building beneath the surface. Amara moved through her shift with focus, but her thoughts were elsewhere. Victor Kane. Escalating. What did that actually look like? More complaints. Legal pressure. Public humiliation. She had never been in a situation like this before. She had always kept her head down. Survived. But this was something else. And for the first time, she wasn't alone in it. Midway through the evening, one of the servers approached her quietly. Amara, she whispered, there's something you should see. Amara frowned slightly. What is it? The server hesitated, then held out her phone. It's online. Amara took it. Her stomach tightened almost instantly. A video. The title alone made her chest drop. Waitress attacks billionaire customer in luxury restaurant. Her fingers tightened around the phone. Play it, the server said softly. Amara hesitated, then tapped. The video started mid-incident. Victor's voice was raised. Edited. Cut. Framed. It showed her speaking. Calm. Firm. But out of context. It looked like defiance. Disrespect. Aggression. The moment he threw the wine. Barely visible. Almost completely removed. Amara felt a slow heat rise in her chest. They cut it, she said quietly. Yeah, the server replied. They made it look like you started everything. Amara swallowed. How many people have seen this? Too many, the server said. Amara handed the phone back slowly. Her mind was already racing. This wasn't just escalation. This was manipulation. Later in the office, Elias was already watching the video when she walked in. He didn't look surprised. I assume you've seen it, he said. Amara nodded. They twisted it. Yes, he said simply. The manager paced behind them. This is bad, he muttered. Really bad if this spreads. It will, Elias interrupted calmly. The manager stopped packing. Then we need to respond, he said, immediately. Elias shook his head. Not yet. Amara frowned. Why not? Because reacting too quickly means playing his game, Elias said. She crossed her arms slightly. And doing nothing means letting him control the narrative. Elias looked at her. Not nothing, he said, the right thing. A pause. Amara held his gaze. What's the right thing? Elias leaned back slightly. We tell the truth, he said, but we do it when it matters most. The manager frowned. And when is that? When people start asking questions, Elias replied. Amara let out a small breath. They're already asking. Yes, he said, and that's exactly what we need. She blinked. You want this to spread. I want the truth to matter, he said. Silence. Then, do you trust me? Elias asked. The question caught her off guard. She hesitated. Then, yes, she said. He nodded once. Then wait. Waiting turned out to be the hardest part. The video spread fast. Faster than Amara expected. Comments flooded in. Some supportive. Many not. She should be fired. Disrespectful staff like this ruin service. These workers are getting too bold. Amara read a few. Then stopped. It wasn't worth it. But it still got to her. Not because she doubted herself, but because she recognized something deeper. How easy it was for people to believe the worst. That night she sat at home with her notebook open. But she wasn't writing recipes. She was thinking. About everything. About power. About voice. About how quickly the truth could be buried if no one fought for it. Her mother watched her quietly. You're thinking too much, she said gently. Amara sighed. I don't have a choice. Her mother smiled faintly. You always have a choice. Amara looked up. Between what? Fear and purpose, she said. Amara frowned slightly. This doesn't feel like purpose. Because it's uncomfortable, her mother replied. That's usually where purpose begins. A long pause. Then, what if I lose everything? Amara asked. Her mother's expression softened. Then you build again, she said. Amara let out a quiet breath. You make it sound easy. It's not, her mother said, but neither is staying small. Those words stayed with her. The next morning, everything changed. Again. Amara walked into the restaurant, and this time, the atmosphere was different in a new way. Not whispers. Not curiosity. Tension. Real tension. The manager met her almost immediately. We need to talk, he said. She followed him. The office door closed. What now? She asked. He exhaled sharply. Victor is hosting a private event, he said. Amara blinked. Here? Yes. Her stomach tightened. When? Tonight. Silence. Amara stared at him. You're serious? I don't have a choice, he said. It was booked weeks ago. Canceling would make things worse. Amara felt the weight of it instantly. He's doing this on purpose, she said. Of course he is, the manager replied. He wants control, he wants to prove a point. Amara's jaw tightened. And what's the point? The manager met her eyes. That you don't belong here. The words hung in the air. Heavy. Deliberate. Amara straightened slightly. Then I guess I'll have to prove him wrong, she said. The manager hesitated. You don't have to work tonight, he added quickly. We can keep you off the floor. Amara shook her head. No. Amara. No, she repeated. If I hide now, he wins. Silence. The manager studied her. Then slowly. All right, he said, but be careful. Amara nodded. I always am. That evening, the restaurant transformed. Private event. High-profile guests. Security tighter than usual. And at the center of it all, Victor Kane. He arrived like he owned the place. Confident. Untouched. Untouchable. But when his eyes landed on Amara, something flickered. Just for a second. Recognition. Tension. Challenge. Amara didn't look away. Not this time. And in that moment, the room shifted again. Because this wasn't over. Not even close. If you've made it this far, this story is only getting more intense. Drop a comment. What do you think Amara should do in this situation? And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next, because the next move Victor makes. It's changed everything. Victor didn't approach her immediately. That was the first sign he had changed tactics. Instead, he moved through the room like a man completely in control, shaking hands, laughing loudly, drawing attention without trying too hard. Every movement was deliberate, every smile calculated. But Amara noticed something others didn't. Every now and then, his eyes flickered back to her. Not with anger. With intention. He wasn't done. He was waiting. Stay sharp tonight, the manager whispered as he passed her. Amara nodded slightly. I will. Her hands were steady as she adjusted her tray. Her breathing calm. But inside, she could feel it. This wasn't just another shift. This was a test. The event moved smoothly at first. Drinks flowed. Guests mingled. The atmosphere on the surface was flawless. But beneath it, something was off. Amara noticed small things. Whispers between guests. Phones being used more than usual. Subtle glances in her direction. And then, it clicked. They're watching, she murmured to herself. Not just the room. Sir. Victor hadn't just created a scene online. He had created an audience. And tonight, he wanted a performance. About an hour into the event, it happened. Miss. The voice came from behind her. Smooth. Controlled. Amara turned slowly. Victor stood there. Closer than before. Too close. Mr. Kane, she said calmly. He smiled. But it didn't reach his eyes. I was hoping we'd get a chance to speak, he said. Amara didn't respond immediately. She could feel eyes on them. Waiting. Recording. I'm working, she said simply. Victor chuckled softly. Yes, he said, I can see that. A pause. Then, but I think we both know this isn't just about work anymore. Amara met his gaze. No, she said, it is. His smile widened slightly. Good, he said, then let's not pretend. Silence stretched between them. The air felt tighter. Tell me, Victor continued, lowering his voice just enough to make it feel more personal. Do you enjoy the attention? Amara's expression didn't change. I didn't ask for it, she said. But you created it, he replied. No, she said quietly, you did. A flicker of irritation crossed his face. Brief. Controlled. You're still doing it, he said, still trying to turn this into something bigger than it is. Amara tilted her head slightly. It already is, she said. Another pause. Victor studied her more carefully now. You're either very brave, he said slowly, or very foolish. Maybe both, she replied. That caught him off guard. Just slightly. But enough. Around them, the room felt quieter. Not silent, but focused. People were watching. Phones angled just enough to capture. Victor knew it. Amara knew it. This was no longer private. Victor leaned in slightly. Let's make this simple, he said. Apologize publicly right now. Amara didn't move. And if I do, she asked. His smile returned. Colder this time. Then I make sure that video is just the beginning. A pause. I can make this very uncomfortable for you. Amara held his gaze. For a moment, she said nothing. Then, you already tried that, she said. Victor's jaw tightened. And yet, he replied, here you are still in my space. Amara shook her head slightly. This isn't your space, she said. Victor's eyes darkened. Everything in this room exists because of people like me, he said. No, Amara replied calmly. It exists because of people who work. The words landed. Hard. A ripple moved through the nearby guests. Victor straightened slowly. You really don't understand how this works, he said. Amara took a small step forward. Then explain it to me, she said. Another pause. Victor studied her, recalculating. Then, power, he said simply, that's how it works. Amara nodded slightly. I agree, she said. That surprised him. But power isn't what you think it is, she continued. The room seemed to lean in. Victor's expression sharpened. Enlighten me, he said. Amara's voice remained steady. Power isn't making someone smaller so you can feel bigger, she said. That's insecurity. A few guests shifted. Power, she continued, is being able to build something without needing to break someone else to prove it. Silence. Victor didn't interrupt. For the first time, he was listening. Last time, she added quietly, you threw wine. A pause. This time, you're throwing influence. The words hung in the air. Heavy, unavoidable. And it still doesn't change anything, she finished. Victor's eyes narrowed. And what exactly doesn't it change? He asked. Amara met his gaze without hesitation. Who you are, she said. The silence that followed was deeper than before. Because this time, there was no room to twist it. No way to edit it out. The truth had been said. Clearly. Directly. Publicly. Victor didn't react immediately. That was the most unsettling part. He just stood there, looking at her, measuring. Then, he smiled. Slow. Controlled. Careful, he said quietly. You're getting comfortable. Amara didn't respond. Victor stepped back. And comfort, he added, can be taken away very quickly. Then he turned. Walked away. Just like that. No outburst. No scene. But somehow, that felt worse. The room slowly returned to movement. Conversations resumed. But the energy had changed. Again, Amara stood still for a moment. Her heart beating steadily. Not racing. Not panicked. Just steady. She had faced him. Again. And she hadn't broken. You handled that well. Elias. Of course. Amara didn't turn right away. Was I supposed to handle it differently? She asked. Elias stepped beside her. No, he said, but most people would have. She exhaled slowly. He's not done, she said. No, Elias agreed, he's not. A pause. He's setting something up. Elias nodded slightly. Yes. Amara turned to him. What? Elias' expression didn't change. A bigger move, he said, something that forces a reaction. Amara frowned. Like what? Elias looked out across the room. Something public, he said, something he thinks he can control. Amara's grip tightened slightly. Then we stop him. Elias glanced at her. Not yet. She frowned. Why do you keep saying that? Because timing matters, he replied. A pause. Right now he thinks he's winning, Elias added. Amara looked at Victor across the room. Confident. Smiling. Surrounded by people. He looks like he is, she said. Elias' voice was quiet. He's not. The event continued. But the balance had shifted. Victor was still the center of attention. But now, he wasn't the only one. People watched Amara too. Not as a server, but as someone who had stood her ground. Twice. And that kind of attention, it couldn't be undone. Later that night, as the event began to wind down, Amara stepped outside again. The cool air hit her face. She closed her eyes briefly. Then, her phone buzzed. She frowned, pulled it out. A message. Unknown number. She opened it, and her breath caught slightly. It was a photo of her from earlier that night, mid-conversation with Victor, captured perfectly, framed intentionally. Below it, a single message. You should have apologized. Amara's fingers tightened around the phone. Another message came through. This is your last chance. She stared at the screen. Then slowly, she locked the phone. Her expression didn't change, but something inside her did. Because now, it wasn't just about standing her ground. It was about what came next. And for the first time, Amara wasn't just reacting. She was ready. If you're still watching, things are about to get even more intense. Do you think Amara should fight back publicly or stay silent and wait? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe, because what happens next? No one sees it coming. Amara didn't show the message to anyone immediately. Not the manager. Not Elias. She slipped the phone back into her pocket and stood there for a moment, letting the night air cool the heat rising in her chest. This is your last chance. The words echoed, not as a threat, but as a challenge. She had spent most of her life avoiding confrontation, choosing survival over resistance, keeping her head down, saying less, enduring more. But this wasn't survival anymore. This was control. And she was done being controlled. Inside, the last of the guests were leaving. Victor stood near the exit, shaking hands, smiling like nothing had happened, like the night had gone exactly the way he wanted, like he had already won. Amara watched him from across the room. And for the first time, she didn't feel small. She felt clear. Something changed. Elias' voice came from behind her. She turned. He was watching her carefully. You saw something, he added. Amara hesitated, then pulled out her phone. Showed him the message. Elias read it once. Then again. His expression didn't shift much, but something colder settled behind his eyes. When did you get this? He asked. A few minutes ago. Elias nodded slowly. Good, he said. Amara frowned. Good. Yes, he replied. She crossed her arms slightly. That doesn't feel like a good thing. It is, Elias said calmly, because now he's made a mistake. Amara studied him. How? He's moved from pressure to threat, Elias said, and threats can be traced. A pause. And exposed. Amara's grip on her phone tightened slightly. So what do we do? Elias looked at her. Now, he said, we stop waiting. The shift was immediate. Subtle on the outside. Decisive underneath. Elias made one call. Short. Precise. Then another. Within minutes, things were moving. Amara didn't ask for details. But she understood one thing clearly. This wasn't just defense anymore. This was strategy. Come with me, Elias said. Amara followed him out of the restaurant. Not to the street, but around the side, toward a quieter entrance she had never used before. A private office. Inside, the atmosphere was different. Less polished. More controlled. Elias gestured for her to sit. She didn't. What's happening? She asked. Elias placed her phone on the table. This, he said, is leverage. Amara frowned. It's a threat. It's evidence, he corrected. A pause. Combined with the video he released, the witness accounts, and tonight's behavior. He looked up at her. It's a pattern. Amara's expression sharpened slightly. Of what? Abuse of influence, Elias said. Intimidation, manipulation of public narrative. She processed that. Slowly. And you can prove that. Elias met her gaze. I can make people look at it closely enough to see it. Silence settled. Then, and me, she asked, what do I do? Elias didn't answer immediately. Instead, he studied her. Carefully. Then, you tell your story, he said. Amara blinked. Publicly. Yes. Her chest tightened slightly. You said not to react. I said not to react then, he corrected. A pause. This is different. Amara looked away briefly. People already think they know what happened. Then show them what really did, Elias said. She hesitated. I've never done anything like that. I know, he said, that's why it will matter. A long pause. Then, what if they don't believe me, she asked. Elias' voice was steady. Then you say it anyway. Minutes later, Amara stood in front of a phone camera. Not in the restaurant. Not in uniform. Just her. Plain. Real. Her hands were steady, but her heart was. Elias stood off to the side. Not directing. Not interrupting. Just there. Whenever you're ready, he said. Amara took a breath. Then another. Then, she pressed record. For a second, she said nothing. Just looked at the camera. Then, my name is Amara Nwoye, she began. Her voice was calm. Clear. I work at Azure Cove. A pause. And a few nights ago, something happened. She didn't rush. Didn't dramatize. She told it simply. The whine. The silence. The words that followed. The video that was edited. The message she received. Every piece. Unfiltered. Unembellished. Just truth. When she finished, she didn't add anything dramatic. No anger. No plea. Just, that's what happened. She reached forward. Stopped the recording. Silence filled the room. Elias nodded once. That's enough. The video went up within the hour. Not on a major platform. Not pushed aggressively. Just released. Clean. Unedited. Real. And then, they waited. At first, nothing happened. Minutes passed. Then, a few views. A few comments. Then more. Then, something shifted. People started comparing. Her video. Victor's version. The differences. The cuts. The missing moments. Questions began to rise. Not loud at first, but steady, persistent. And once questions start, control begins to slip. Amara sat quietly, watching the numbers climb. Not obsessively, just aware. Elias stood near the window, phone in hand. Monitoring, not reacting. Then, he spoke. "It's working." Amara looked up. "How do you know?" He turned the phone toward her. Headlines. Small at first, then growing. Conflicting accounts emerge in restaurant incident. Was viral video edited? Witnesses speak out. Amara's breath slowed. "They're seeing it," she said. "Yes," Elias replied, "they are." Across the city, in a high-rise office, Victor Kane stared at his screen. The smile he had worn all night. Gone. Replaced by something sharper. More dangerous. His phone buzzed repeatedly. Calls. Messages. Questions. He ignored them. Focused only on one thing. Amara's video. He watched it once. Then again. Then, he slammed the phone onto the desk. "Hard. They're questioning it," one of his associates said cautiously. Victor didn't look up. "Of course they are," he said coldly. A pause. "What do we do?" the associate asked. Victor's jaw tightened. Then slowly, "We finish it." Back in the office, Amara felt it before she saw it. A shift. A tension. Elias' phone buzzed. He looked at it. His expression didn't change, but his tone did. "He's responding," he said. Amara's chest tightened. "How?" Elias met her eyes. "He's going all in." A pause. And this time, his voice lowered slightly. "He's not trying to control the story." Amara frowned. "Then what is he doing?" Elias didn't look away. "He's trying to destroy it." Silence filled the room. Because now, this wasn't just a conflict. It was a collision. And there was no going back. If you've made it this far, you already know this isn't just a story anymore. It's a battle. Drop a comment right now. Do you think Amara made the right move by going public? And don't forget to like and subscribe. Because the final part. It changes everything. The shift came fast. Faster than Amara expected. One moment, the narrative was turning in her favor. People asking questions, noticing the inconsistencies, beginning to doubt Victor's version. The next, everything exploded. Her phone lit up nonstop. Messages. Notifications. Mentions. At first, they looked supportive. Then, they changed. New headlines started appearing. Louder. More aggressive. Waitress fabricates story for sympathy. New claims surface against restaurant worker. Insider reports question Amara Nwoye's credibility. Amara's stomach dropped. "This doesn't make sense," she whispered. Elias was already reading through them. "They're coordinated," he said. Amara looked at him. "Coordinated?" "Yes," he replied. "This isn't organic, it's a counterattack." Her chest tightened. "He's creating a new narrative." "Exactly." Amara's fingers curled slightly. "What kind of claims?" Elias turned the screen toward her. Her breath caught. Anonymous sources, allegations, twisted fragments of truth. Late shifts turned into unprofessional behavior. Conversations turned into conflicts with staff. Even her notebook, reframed as delusions of grandeur. Amara felt something crack inside her. Not fear, not shame, something deeper. Anger. They're lying, she said. Elias nodded. Yes. They don't even know me. No, he said, but they don't need to. They just need people to doubt you. Amara stood up. Packing. This is exactly what he wants, she said, to bury the truth under noise. Elias watched her carefully. And what do you want to do? He asked. She stopped, turned to him, her eyes steady. I don't want to fight lies with more noise, she said. A pause. I want to end it. Elias tilted his head slightly. How? Amara didn't hesitate. Truth, she said. That night, everything came together. Not by chance. By design. Elias made calls. Not loud ones. Not public ones. The kind that moved quietly but powerfully. Legal teams. Media contacts. People who didn't just follow stories, but verified them. Amara didn't understand every step, but she didn't need to. She understood the goal. Clarity. Are you ready? Elias asked. Amara stood in the same quiet office as before. The same camera. The same stillness. But she wasn't the same. Yes, she said. This time, they didn't just release her voice. They released everything. Full footage from the restaurant. Unedited. From multiple angles. The moment Victor threw the wine. Clear. Undeniable. Witness statements. Recorded. Consistent. Staff accounts. Guest testimonies. And finally, the message. You should have apologized. This is your last chance. Time-stamped. Verified. Connected. The truth didn't trickle out. It hit. Hard. Within hours, the narrative shifted completely. Not gradually. Not quietly. Completely. The same platforms that questioned her now corrected themselves. The same voices that doubted now apologized. New evidence clears waitress in viral incident. Full footage reveals truth behind restaurant controversy. Billionaire businessman under scrutiny after evidence emerges. Amara watched it happen. Not with satisfaction. Not with pride. But with something quieter. Relief. Victor Kane watched it too. From his office. Alone. This time, there was no smile. No control. Just silence. His phone rang. Again. And again. He didn't answer. Because for the first time, he didn't have the power to shape what came next. Days later, everything changed again. But this time, it was different. The restaurant was full. But the atmosphere wasn't tense. It was alive. Warm. Balanced. Amara moved through it, not as someone trying to survive, but as someone who belonged. Fully. The manager approached her quietly. They're asking for you, he said. Amara frowned slightly. Who? He nodded toward a table near the window. Guests. Important ones. Watching her. Not with judgment. With respect. They want your recommendations, he said. Amara hesitated. Then nodded. I'll be right there. She approached the table. Calm. Confident. Not rehearsed. Just present. What would you suggest? One of them asked. Amara smiled slightly. For something memorable, she said, you should try something not on the menu. The table leaned in. Curious. What do you mean? Another asked. Amara's eyes lit slightly. There's a dish I've been working on, she said. It's not official yet. A pause. But it should be. Later that night, Elias found her outside again. Same spot. Same quiet air. But everything felt different. You look lighter, he said. Amara smiled faintly. Someone else said that once. Elias nodded. I think they were right. A pause. Then, it's over, she said. Elias shook his head slightly. No, he said, it's just beginning. She looked at him. What is? He nodded toward her bag. Her notebook. Everything you've been building. Amara exhaled slowly. I don't want shortcuts, she said. You won't have them, he replied. I don't want this to be about what happened, she added. I want it to be about what I create. Elias smiled. That's exactly what it should be. A quiet moment passed. Then, if I do this, she said, I do it my way. Elias nodded. Good. Months later, the sign read, Nwoye table. Small. Elegant. Full. Every seat occupied. Every plate intentional. Every detail hers. Amara stood in the kitchen. Not watching. Leading. Not proving anything. Just creating. The staff moved with purpose. Some of them. People who had once been overlooked. Ignored. Undervalued. Now. Seen. Just like she had wanted. In the dining area, guests spoke quietly. Not about controversy. Not about headlines. About the food. The experience. The feeling. Elias sat at a corner table. Not at the center. Not drawing attention. Just watching. A quiet presence. The same as always. Amara stepped out briefly. Walked through the space. Not as a server. Not as someone passing through. But as someone who had built something real. She stopped at Elias' table. You never told me, she said. He looked up. Told you what? Why you really helped me, she said. Elias smiled slightly. I did, he replied. You just didn't believe me. She crossed her arms lightly. Try again. He leaned back slightly. Then, because I recognize something in you, he said. A pause. Something that doesn't ask for permission. Amara held his gaze. And now, she asked. Elias looked around the restaurant. Then back at her. Now, he said, everyone else sees it too. Amara smiled. Not wide. Not loud. Just real. Because she had learned something through all of it. Something no one could take away.